Thanks, Mark. Good evening, everyone. My name is Colette Gelwicks, and I'm the chair of the Odenton Town Center Advisory Committee. Today's date is October 28th, 2025, and the time is 6:01. We have reached quorum, so this meeting of the Odenton Town Center Advisory Committee is called to order. And a welcome to any attendees who are dialing in from the public virtually, and don't have anyone yet in person, but who knows. As a reminder, the role of this committee of community volunteers is to advocate for the vision, goals, policies, and strategies of the Odenton Town Center Master Plan. I'd like to invite all of the committee members to be mindful of time with your questions and comments so that everyone can contribute. And I ask you to also ensure that your input remains professional and respectful. Finally, we do have a hard cutoff being here at the library, so if discussions run long, I may need to step in and move us forward. So moving on to administrative items to confirm the agenda, is there a motion to approve the agenda for tonight?
So moved.
Thank you, Martin. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Jason. All in favor?
And I
Okay.
see Drew, I see Abigail and Andrew.
Thank you. All right, the agenda is approved. And then to approve the September 2025 meeting minutes, is there a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Thank you, Jason. Second, Abigail. Was that a second, or do you have a? I can't tell. Abigail, if you have something to share or if you're giving a second. Okay, let's just call it a second.
Yep.
All right, all in favor?
Abigail's not you.
Yeah. Okay.
And I see
Great.
Andrew or Drew.
All right, minutes are approved.
Are you able to hear me now?
Yes,
A little better.
a little bit.
Good job.
Okay.
Getting there. All right, so we are starting tonight with a presentation from Arundel County's Office of Transportation and Maryland's Department of Transportation. Welcome, and thank you so much for taking the time to join our committee meeting tonight. I'd like to invite you all to give remarks or presentation if you have anything. And at that point then I'll open it up for questions to the committee members. So committee members, please hold your questions until our guests are done. So who would like to begin?
Okay. Brian, did you want to go, or Tara, do you want to start?
Tara, you want to go first, or you want me to go first? Mine is going to have some questions for you in there, so either way.
Maybe I can go first.
Sure.
Okay, let's see if I can share my presentation. Just a second. There we go. Let's see. Do you see the PowerPoint?
We do. Yep.
Okay. All right. So I have presented kind of status updates on the Maryland 175 corridor improvements that have been going on for more than a decade now. A lot of them are done, but I thought I would update you on the current project at 295 and just remind you of the improvements that have been completed along 175 near Fort Meade. So let's see. All right. So currently, what we call phase one is the Maryland 175 interchange reconstruction, and it does include widening the roadway to 6 lanes and constructing the bike ped improvements that are typical in the corridor. That is under construction, has been under construction, and is estimated to be complete in the fall of 2027. and is currently funded $82.3 million. Kind of moving east from that interchange, this project was done in the fall of 2014 and was called a BRAC project, so interchange or intersection improvements at Maryland 713 and Disney Road. This project goes kind of from the one I just talked about, that BRAC project, to the next BRAC project, or it was called Phase 2. So this was widening 175 between Disney Road and Reese Road. And the typical section does include on-road bike lanes in each direction, a 5-foot sidewalk on the north side, and the 10-foot shared use path on the south side. And that came in at $19.3 million, and that was completed in spring 2020. This one is on the east end of that project and is another BRAC project between Mapes and Reese Road. And that was completed in July of 2018 at a cost of $17.9 million. All right. So this one is the overall corridor study. So those were all breakout projects from the corridor study done along 175. And so it lists the different breakouts that have been completed. So what we call Phase 3 is between Reese Road and Maryland 32, or really to Nevada Avenue, just east of 32. And that was funded $1 million for partial design, and that one is on hold. So I think the other thing I wanted to brief you on was another corridor project along 198 from 295 to 32. And this study was completed with $3.8 million in county funding. And there was a Phase 1 identified at 295, but that project has been on hold for a while. The typical section for this roadway is a 4-lane divided with on-road bicycle lanes, a sidewalk on one side, and a shared use path. So that okay. So I don't think I'm sharing anymore. And that's kind of what I had to share with you tonight. I certainly can answer any questions about other county projects, or at least try, when we get to that point. So thank you.
Yeah, maybe I'll run through my presentation real quick, because it does cover some state questions. And I basically used, I guess Mark fed us some questions from the committee. So I kind of use that as a basis for my presentation. I'm Brian Ulrich, Planning Administrator for Office of Transportation. Even though there are a lot of state roads, the county kind of plans for improvements, on state roads as well as county roads, and we plan for all modes. So we are responsible for the transportation planning documents that kind of feed the general development plan. And so move in Arundel, and then we have things like walk and roll, that's the bike ped master plan, the transit development plan, those kinds of things. So we have these plans, and then we try to get these projects implemented, whether it's, requesting through the priority letter for the state to do it, sometimes kicking in money, or the county kind of taking the lead and doing a project. So I was going to go a little bit more to the core I know there was some questions about 175, and I think more so in the core as being a barrier in the core. So I'm going to cover a couple of these projects that I'm at least touch on 175 through the majority of the town center. Tara talked about the planning study. There's kind of a missing segment I'll point out. The county is doing an Odenton Grid Streets project that's kind of constructing these paper streets in the northwest corner of the town center. The county is working with the state on the Odenton Mark Garage project, and there will be TOD after that. There's an Odenton Park project. I'm not going to discuss it necessarily, other than, you know, across the park, you know, we're looking for improvements, you know, in kind of a missing section that we'll get to in a minute. We also completed a while back a Odenton to BWI trail study. So I'll touch on that a little bit, and that kind of ties into where the Maryland 175 sidewalk project is from Sappington Station to 170. And then I mentioned too, Monterey Ave sidewalk that kind of crosses or at least reaches 175 Monterey Ave. I'm not going to touch on that. It's just basically a sidewalk project that DPW is working on. We can get you details on that if you want. And then the South Shore Trail goes from Sappington Station down to 175 and eventually all the way to Annapolis, or at least Parole. So these all kind of touch and are interrelated, and especially from our standpoint, from a kind of bike ped standpoint, are all almost touching and part of a system, and they're all projects we're working on actively. So the first one that I thought was brought up is the 175, kind of from 170 to the circle. The county is funding the design of this project, or was funding 100% of it. I don't know if we still are, but it started as a sidewalk project and went through some iterations, and it's now, I don't know if it was as a result of the Complete Streets issues, but again, the state trying to make sure we accommodate all users. They're looking to put a shared use path along, I believe, the north side. I think this says let me see what this says, the southbound side. I think it's on the northbound side, actually. But shared use path on one side, sidewalk on the other, and then potentially using some of the existing road. So there's design underway. I don't want to, you know, give everything away or whatever. I know they're still working on this. I think they're coming out with a 30% design plan, and Tara may be able to tell us. Sometimes I say soon, probably early next year, they'd be looking for a public meeting, I'm guessing. But so this is kind of a retrofit to the 175, make it more bike and ped friendly, and maybe do some streetscape road diet kind of work potentially here. The next one is this 175 project that Tara talked about. I would say that the missing section is kind of that last segment there. She knows she went from 295 all the way down to at least Mapes. I don't know if we went down to what was that, maybe Nevada. I can't remember the last.
Just past 32.
It's just just west of 32. So that kind of carrying. There's a shared use path. Now the county is working on one along Blue Water Boulevard, and the developer did some on Town Center Boulevard, but we do also long vision and turn that shared use path continuing all the way into the town center. And this was part of the larger study, the study that was done that generated all those projects. In this section intentionally did not widen 175 through the town center, but it did add, at least this called for sidewalk. I think the county is now looking for maybe a shared use path to tie in bikes and peds. And we also wanted to realign the ramp. You can see here this ramp, realign it to match up with a future Odenton Avenue. There's some issues with that and right of way, but that was part of the project. So it was just that, and then kind of bike ped improvements. We're still working on those bike ped improvements. We still do plan to make those improvements in the long run. Part of those improvements may be done by the Odenton Grid Streets project. So The county, again, we had some developments I'm sure you're familiar with, come in and kind of piecemeal. And, as one development comes in on one side, another one comes on the other side, sometimes these roads don't match up. So the decision was made to go in there, fund the road improvements. Let's build it out. And that will help stimulate development in the town center and also make sure that the road improvements all line up and match up. And so kind of both from making sure everything still works and make sure it's done right. We were kind of advancing this. I think they're using impact fees, but don't quote me on that. Just trying to, and so kind of be reimbursed by development as it comes in. So you can see building the grid streets, and on the north side of 175, I think we're doing a 10-foot sidewalk or urban sidewalk streetscape kind of deal there, but no road work really in 175, just kind of pedestrian improvements along the edge of it and then doing the road work. So that is funded, that is under design. There was some delays. We had to change consultants, so it's now re-kicking off. It got all the way to 60%, so I believe we're just going to take it from 60% to final design and then begin construction. This kind of ends here, you can see, and then but there was a county study that was done for the Odenton BWI trails. This would kind of go from 175 and the trail along Piney Orchard Parkway up some way to BWI. They looked at these three corridors, 170 all the way up, 170 and cutting across either past 32 or before 32, or then also going behind Sappington Station Circle and back up Burns Crossing and then to B&A Boulevard, or what is it called? Is it B&A Boulevard? That's not B&A. Anyway, that one that runs parallel to 170 up towards the airport. So this is a study, and then we have an alignment, and so we're still working on that too, but we don't have funding. But we've got a couple times developers talking about maybe doing pieces of it. But just to get you in the picture of what is the planned improvements, what are we working on? We're still working on funding pieces of this, and this would tie into, again, all those trail improvements, the 175 improvements here that we talked about with a potential shared use path, and the other work we've got going on in the area. And then we'll talk a little bit about the Odenton Mark Garage and TOD. The county is building the garage on a portion of the west lot. I guess this is kind of looking south from 175, the station. Well, let's see. Got too much in the way. Now I'm kind of turned around, but if this is the garage, okay, this is the railroad tracks here. So this is looking west, I guess, from the east side, from the library side across the tracks. And so this right here is the garage that the county is constructing. You can see a rendering right here. We've submitted for grading permits. We're anticipating getting permits by early next year or mid next year, and then at least bidding it out by next year. I'm not sure if construction will start next year or maybe early 27, but that's the plan. And so we would build this garage, and then of course the state had an RFP out early last year, or maybe late 2 years ago, to the end of 24. I think they accepted bids. They or a short list, I guess, or request for proposals. So they shortlisted the teams. I don't have the current status, but all that to say, they are still planning on developing on the east west lot, and they still have a plan. Of course, they need the garage to get to some level of certainty before they can start. But that would be developing on what is now surface parking, transit-oriented development. So that's still moving. We're still working with Office of Real Estate at M. Well, I don't know if it's Secretary's office or exactly where they are in MDOT, but that's still planned, and the county and the state are working together on that. Those are projects. I know there was a couple other things like sidewalk maintenance and complaints about that. The county actually maintains sidewalks. There's a state code, and I could have referenced it, but I don't remember. The county is responsible for all sidewalk maintenance along a state roadway and of course county roadway. The county does have an ordinance too, that the adjacent property owner is responsible for like shoveling snow and some level of maintenance. There has been, I believe, a court case or something that recently that stated that the county is responsible for some level of maintenance on sidewalks with making sure it's ADA compliant and at least traversable. And they do some I won't say landscaping, but trimming and sight distance and things like that. But they have too much to maintain to be able to go out there to the level of maybe what people would think of a beautification. So there are places where people have agreements with the county and/or the state to maintain those areas to a higher level. So if you're looking at really high level plantings and keeping it really nicely groomed, you would need somebody to kind of take that on. If you're just looking at safety, kind of trimming the trees back so people can walk on the sidewalk, or the overgrowth so people can see getting in and out of driveways, that's something the county can do. But to a higher level, it's either the property owner or somebody that agrees to maintain that. Again, you can probably get more details on DPW from that. I think there was some questions about a complete streets policy. And Tara, I don't know if you want to talk about that, but I know that the state just recently updated. I don't know if they had one before or not, but they at least provided an update and kind of being more comprehensive and making sure all of their projects are meeting this new policy, to make sure, to the extent practical, they are making sure that it's available for all modes. Now, of course, like 97, they're not going to make it available for pedestrians, but to the extent that it's a facility that expects walkers or bikers or transit, they're trying to make sure all their projects do that. And they're going back and retrofitting, just like we are. There's a lot of projects. If you saw the CTP that came out, there was a Maryland 2, what they call PSAP, is Pedestrian Safety Action Plan project. There's one on Business 3, kind of Crane Highway in Glen Burnie. So they're working with us on a number of these projects to go back and kind of make these roads that were built more suburban at the time, more pedestrian and bike friendly. So there is a shift underway. There is a new policy. Tara may be able to speak more to it. I don't know, Tara, if you want to say anything about it, or just wait for questions.
I can. So a couple of things. This initiative is really changing the way we do business, and there are processes being put in place, and it's taking a while to kind of get the design process, get these new kind of checkpoints in the design process to make sure that the appropriate bike ped facilities are included in the project. On the other side of it, right now, the PSAP and the context driven, which is another initiative through SHA, the Pedestrian Safety Action Plan analyzed all roadways in the state and identified high crash corridors and ranked them, and we have a process for pursuing them. So the Maryland 2 PSAP project is a major project in the CTP and is moving forward. Brian mentioned the Maryland 3 business, I believe. That is in the second phase, so it's in design. And so it doesn't show up in the CTP as a major project right now. And the focus on those are, what can we do to make walking and biking safer? And really trying to avoid major utility impacts, right-of-way impacts that make a project much more expensive and takes a lot longer to build. So trying to do things in a way that get these improvements on the ground. So those are you'll see those projects being advertised, in social media. That's the progressive, forward-thinking implementation that's happening right now. So maybe that helps, and I can get a few specs on that project on Maryland too. If you give me a minute, maybe for the questions, I can do that.
Thank you, Tara. And I see a number of questions in there. Let me just finish running through this real quick, and then we can go back and hit those questions. So I know we got a question on some of the transit stops in the town center specifically. We had a couple things happen. The MPO kind of did a MPO wide transit stop inventory that identified a lot of things, that were or were not there at all the bus stops from all the providers. And then you can see this is kind of a more simplified version of that the county did. And I zoomed into the Odenton Road stops. And yeah, one of the issues was there are not landing pads at most of the stops in the Odenton Town Center for sure, and a lot of stops in the county. We actually applied for I don't know if it was Safe Routes of Transit. It was a federal grant for. We have some transit money for stop improvements, and we're trying to leverage that to kind of get 80-20 match and expand what we can do. So we applied for a grant. With the slowdown and everything, we haven't heard anything. So if not, we'll just use the money we have and start making improvements. I've directed our transit guy to go ahead and look at the stops in the town center, because obviously transit is more important to the town center. So this is a good place to maybe start. We had a project do all the landing pads. We were waiting for that grant. So we are going to proceed with some of the landing pads. And so again, Odenton is a good place to start. So we will be working on that. And then we did get some questions on how to ride county transit, travel training, that kind of thing. If you go to aacounty.org/transportation or transit, they should both link to transportation website. Then there's a transit tab. You can learn about riding Anne Arundel County Transit. We're transitioning our fleet to get all of them wrapped with this move, but there's still some that are not. We've got Passio, where you can track your bus in real time. I've had some issues with the tablets, so some of those aren't always showing up, but for the most part, we're trying to get those so you can see where the buses are in real time, and that way you're not waiting around. Maybe you can see when the bus is coming, or if you just missed it. You can go to our website. It's got some mapping. We also have kind of a how to ride section, which also specifically includes travel training requests for people that may need additional assistance in how to ride transit, and so we can make sure those people can ride. And so there's a lot of information on the website. Again, with more questions, we can answer those or get somebody that can answer those for you. And then we talked a little bit about design issues. Tara touched on it a little bit. The county updated a lot of our design standards. We're still working on some, but again, the focus is as an industry shifting towards multimodal design, making sure we complete streets, that kind of thing. We are looking at road diets where appropriate. There's still a lot of traffic issues in the county and in the town center. There's some traffic issues, so we're not trying to make traffic worse. We're just trying to make it safer for everybody. Making it super efficient for cars is not the primary focus anymore, but we also don't want to make super worse congestion a lot worse either. So it's a balancing act. We're looking for areas. 175 might be an area that we can do something. And then again, with green infrastructure, we've got a lot of required stormwater management and those kinds of things, but we're still just kind of getting into the more innovative designs for transportation, and that again takes some industry shift and manual shift, and so we're kind of just starting on that. It is being discussed and tried, but maybe not as far along as we'd like to be. So that was kind of my run through trying to address a lot of the questions that we had. I know we've got some in the chat. I'm going to stop sharing. Well, maybe I'll just put it back on this just in case we have specific projects. But I was going to try to hit some of those questions. Or Mark, I don't know if you want to moderate the questions, and then we'll try to answer them.
To
Yeah.
go around the room here.
Thanks. Well, thank you so much, Brian and Tara. This has been so informational and helpful. We really appreciate you both coming out, even virtually, this late in the evening. But this has been really helpful, and I know you all actually touched on all of the points that I sent in terms of questions, and I really appreciate that as well. I will open it up to the committee for questions. If we could maybe just start with 1 or 2 questions. We have about 30 minutes for Q&A. So Martin, you want to get started?
Yeah, I second the acknowledgement of the team presenting tonight. Thank you for that. One of the things I don't see here is a planning effort to deal with traffic issues. We defined what is called transit-oriented development, which the first word is transit. And the way it works is that, as I know it, you develop transportation hubs where you want people to go, and you build around it. But transportation is first. What I'm not seeing is any kind of data or information about how you're handling traffic. 175 at 170 at times of the day is ridiculous. It was better when people weren't going to DC a lot, but now that they are coming back to DC, the traffic is building up again. What do you have to say about TOD in that regard of transit planning? What are the studies telling you about traffic, and how are you dealing with it?
Yeah, that's great. I did not include this as much. A part of the Odenton Grid Streets project was building off. We did a very detailed traffic analysis kind of plan in 2010 as part of the master plan. We did kind of a very detailed traffic modeling exercise where we looked at the ultimate development and kind of guessed at what like we anticipated development on the west lot. I think we anticipated development on the West County maintenance lot that was at the time still maintenance, but it's in the process of being moved. And so kind of planned for an urban development of the town center, looked at everything that would need to be done. Part of the 175 project intentionally didn't widen 175 through the town center, and more as a context sensitivity kind of issue, in that, you know, it might need to be widened and divided as more of a thoroughfare, kind of like the rest of 175, just to handle the traffic. But again, trying to make this a place where people could walk and bike and have density and be a more urban feel. To just handle the traffic, you might need the, you know, say 3 lanes divided as some of the rest of 175. But at that, and this was predated me. Before that, there was a.
Brian, sorry for interrupting. I don't want to advocate that we widen the road.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm saying. Transit is the important part here, and what I want to comment on specifically is the bus system that runs to the MARC station. At one point, years ago, that bus system was great. It was going down Watchapel, would meet the schedule for the train, which is the first last mile problem. But now that bus is, I don't know if anybody rides it, maybe a few, but I took it maybe 6 months ago. I was the only one on it during a peak time. The bus is not promoted. The stops are not clearly marked. There just is not an effort to build in that bus system to the community, to the town center. And I'd like to know if you and others have plans to improve that. I mean, I had to get a schedule. It wasn't published at the MARC station. I had to ask somebody out the window. They went back in some file cabinet and found a piece of paper that was the schedule. Maybe that's changed since, but it doesn't help people, with their confidence of reliable transportation system when they don't know when it's running, there's nothing published, no one's riding the system, it doesn't meet the time of the MARC train. It's not effective. So I just want to know, what is the plan to improve transit, not cars. You want to get cars off the road, and you want to solve the first and last mile problem, which is people drive from their home, mile or two, to the station to park. What you want them to do is to transit from their home to the station. That's TOD. So what is it you're doing to address that issue?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's great. So anyway, that's where I was headed to, I guess, eventually. But so given all that road improvements, the design of the Odenton grid streets was handling, based on that. We have a transit development plan that addresses both that kind of first last mile, trying to get. I think there was one point there was something like 60 to 80% of the people that went to the and Mark might know this better, but at least 60% of the people that went to the MARC station came within less than 2 miles, I believe.
Right.
So there is a micro transit zone that would feed the MARC station, that it's planned at a TDP. Again, we just need resources. There's other transit routes that would also kind of serve the area. And then again, we need more money to increase frequency. So there is a plan. It just needs money, and it hasn't been funded up till now to that level that it needs to be to both be reliable and frequent, which is again what you need to really make the shift for people to change from getting in their car and to getting in transit. And some of that is the availability of free parking makes it easy to drive in and park and get there if there's a lot of parking. So it's kind of a balancing act. As we're developing the town center, as it becomes more urban, as more development comes in, then it'll be less incentive to drive in and park there and go. But you're right, we need to provide the transit both frequency and reliability to make people make that shift. So there is a plan. We're just beginning to make those improvements as far as providing the service. The schedule should be online. We're trying to get on apps and those kinds of things to make it easier to use. So there is a vision. We just got to get better at implementation.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Martin.
And that transit development plan was linked in one of those emails that I had sent earlier.
Yeah.
Jason, did you have a question? And then
Yes.
after you, we'll move on to those that are.
Yep, yeah, I have a question or two, just two quick clarifying points, just because I want to make sure I understood what presentation was. So again, thanks for all the info, this has been great. With regarding to the question about like people trimming trees and plants and sidewalks, I didn't quite understand, so we just briefly make sure I got it right. Does this mean that like if any common citizen sees that like a sidewalk is impeded, they can trim back any plants that are, or tree branches that are overhanging the sidewalk to clear it up, just being a good citizen, if that property is along the sidewalk is the county's property? Is that, did I interpret that correctly?
My understanding is that if you own the property, it's your responsibility to maintain it. That's the law. As far as I know, that's the law, that the property owner has to maintain it. I don't know what the process is. I know there's 411 that you can say, hey, this person hasn't. I mean, it happens in our neighborhood. It starts with our HOA, but they'll send out reminders to property owners if you have a tree or bush that's growing over the sidewalk, and if you don't do it, they're going to put in a 411 request. And if the county has to do it, they have the ability to charge the property owner. So I think I couldn't hear everything you asked, but that I don't know that you can go do it. I don't know that you can't, but I do know it's the responsibility of the property owner to make sure that it's passable. And if they don't, that the county can do it and could potentially charge the owner for that.
If it's county property, like, are you saying like if you want to be a citizen can volunteer a little bit of time to trim a plant because there's too much property for the county to go through and do that? Did I hear that correctly?
Well, so what I was saying as far as that was, yeah, it's to a certain level, the county will do it for safety, for passing, should be able to do it for, if you can't walk along the sidewalk because of road growth, the county will go do that. What I was saying is some places have a kind of adopted, they'll have an agreement with the county or the state to do, increased maintenance in certain areas. The developer of a shopping center may have plantings in the median or in the right of way, and they have agreement set up to do extra maintenance. So that is the a possibility for somebody to do enhanced maintenance if they work through whoever, county or state for maintaining that to a higher level.
That's fair, so I want to move on. For the shared use paths, uh, it looked like the 10-foot wide sidewalk is rotating between the northbound and the southbound as projects went along 175. So it sounded like sometimes it was on the southbound side. For example, like if it's going along Fort Meade, I know it's against Fort Meade, but if it pivots to be on the northbound side, that means pedestrians are going to have to cross 175 to stay on the 10-foot wide sidewalk. So I just wanted to encourage better cooperation to make sure we align the shared use path to actually stay on the same side of the road as much as possible. Yep.
I can take this one. So in the corridor study, the improvements being done there, so that's between 170 and past 295. It's on the south side. I know that the sidewalk project that's going between 170 and Sappington Circle, I think, it does shift to the north side, and that was unavoidable.
Okay.
Because of right-of-way and utility impacts. So
Okay.
it does do it once, but it doesn't go back and forth.
Okay. Okay, good. I appreciate the clarification.
And they're also improved or enhanced. The idea, the design is trying to enhance crossings anyway, because people will need to get to that. So there are improvements to crossing 175, not just at those intersections, but kind of throughout the corridor.
Yep. Yeah, it's a busy road and it's dangerous to cross, and that's the only my concern. But so the last question I had then is about the complete streets requirements. And as the new plan is created, that creates requirements for development and new construction of sidewalks. Do you see those that the current? I'm worried about the Odenton Town Center Master Plan. Like, just for folks, this question. Do we need to update the Odenton Town Center Master Plan ahead of schedule to account for complete street requirements to make sure that those requirements get built in development projects? Or are the state requirements going to override what's in the master plan? Or is the current set basically grandfathered in, and in 5 years we need to worry about updating the plan for complete street requirements? I'm trying to understand how that will fit into what we currently have.
My understanding is that for a location where there is a master plan, there is a plan, as long as it follows the complete streets policy, which is not onerous if you're already focusing on on sidewalk and bicycle facilities. It defers to that study.
Okay.
I mean, when you go to revisit it, if you're going to revisit a plan, I think what's envisioned is that we're all kind of following the same guidelines at that point, which is what's happening now. It just makes it more codified.
Okay, that's all. Thank you. That's all I have.
And Arundel County has a complete streets plan as well already, doesn't that?
Yeah.
Right? So that is already covered within the master plan. And I'm fairly certain that the county is going to be more progressive than the states.
Right. I just want to make sure we're heading in the increasing direction.
All right, so we had some questions online that Abigail entered, and then I know we still have a few other members. So if anyone, we can go into Abigail's questions, and then if anyone else that's dialing in, Brenda, Andrew, Drew, if you all have questions, please raise your hand so that we can go to you next. So Abigail, do you want to go?
Yep. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you great. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you all for the presentation. I really appreciated hearing we're here to make updates for all modes of transportation. That's great to hear, from what we previously had experiences with. And so one question I had is that it was mentioned about money for stop improvements that was available. So I was curious if that money could be used for things like bus shelters, or if, but not so much the infrastructure of the traditional way, but I think often when it comes to ride usership and why people aren't using the items is because it just doesn't feel safe to walk there. There's no shelters or seating to be able to feel comfortable to use the stops. And then the marketing side for people to even know that it's free or that it's frequent enough. So I'm curious of the flexibility of those funds.
So yes, so there's a capital project called Transit Improvements, which is specifically geared towards making stop improvements. We've done bus shelters. We did 4 or 5 last year. We've got another 4, I think, planned this year for shelters specifically. But also it can include signs. And we did a sign upgrade a couple years ago. And then, like I said, pads. Pads is our big thing that we don't have. I mean, there's a lot of things that we need that we're trying to get through, but ADA landing pads is kind of a priority as well. The other thing is then, like you were talking about, access to. So it's not only the stop improvement itself, but it's the access to. There's a separate capital project called Safe Routes to Transit, and that looks at not only the stop, but also how people can connect to the stop. You know, how they can get there, both crossings as well as kind of like parallel facilities as sidewalks or whatever. So that we hired a consultant. They're kind of building us a prioritized list, and then that capital improvement project will then work off that prioritized list to start implementing recommendations from that master plan, from that prioritized list. We just got the draft plan recently, so I'm not sure if it'll be, this month or next month, or maybe first thing in January, but we'll be going out to the public at some point with that kind of planned list. There's some weighting in there that based on a variety of factors of how we scored which access to transit improvements should be done first. So I'll share that with Mark, the project page, and then we can make sure that we send you guys when we do the public meeting for input as well. But once we get that, then that project will also make those improvements or be working on improvements to access to transit. And then on the marketing side, again, I agree. And in fact, our transit development plan called out how many people didn't know the transit existed, didn't know the services, didn't know where to get them, and that it was free. And even though users, again, have a hard time finding where the buses are. So that's why we were trying to do Passio to get it to where you can see real time. We're working on a real time Google feed as well to upload that. So you don't have to use just that one software. You can use any software to see where the buses are. But yeah, I agree. We need to put more, again, everything just takes money, right? So we just need to put more effort. But again, we try to do these meetings and try to always promote this to let people know, to kind of share by word of mouth by users to try to get that information out there. And we've been rising every year since the pandemic. We have a graph where our ridership has gone up every year consistently since 2021, 22, 23, 24. We keep growing and growing. Part of that is we're providing more service. We're expanding and providing more service, but hopefully some of that is that more people are finding out about it. So we are still a big issue with getting the word out and advertising it, but we're trying.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's great to hear that the ridership is going up. I think part of the marketing challenge too is even just knowing, like, if there are changes to the stops, of making sure that the infrastructure reflects that. For example, I live in Piney Orchard. There's signs for bus stops within the Piney Orchard area, not on the main Piney Orchard Parkway. And I know those stops don't exist anymore. Buses aren't going within those roads. But I'm curious how especially if you're not from a engineering or even a planning background, when there's the acknowledgement of development that will be road diets or traffic calming or complete streets, there isn't the understanding of how that's actually beneficial. It's more so people upset that things aren't going faster or more lanes. So I'm curious of if there has been some type of acknowledgement of marketing or kind of vision zero oriented teaching or learning or signage or advertisement planned in a budget, because it's that psychological or behavior modification that will be important to make sure these changes become implemented, because all it takes is an outcry from a few public meetings of why is this happening, and then a project just gets canceled.
I would love for you to come speak at a budget meeting to help us get those plans. You know, we've tried to increase our marketing budget, and like you said, not just from a transit marketing, but for Vision Zero, for like kind of public education. There is a Vision Zero plan. There are 6 E's, I believe. One of those is education and public education on, again, a variety of things, not just informing people of what we got out there, but kind of the shift in priority, and both educating walkers to be safe as well as drivers to be aware. And there's a lot of stuff that we'd like to do that, again, just needs funding. So I'm gonna call you up next time we have a budget meeting at now. But no, but for real, like advocating whatever it is you guys want to see, both as a committee and individually. Advocacy can only help get those things funded and get those things done. So if it's important to you or your community, we encourage you to get the word out and express it to your elected officials, to us, to other departments, it really involved community can really make a change in directing funding towards what the community wants. So help us help you, and we can do more. But we do have a Vision Zero plan. Also, we do have a website, kind of that PSAP thing that Tara was talking about that the state did. We are kind of, and I say we, I'm speaking for DPW, our traffic engineer. He's got some high, I can't remember what they're called. Their crash corridors, or safety areas that they're concerned about. So those have been identified through this Vision Zero planning study, and now he's zooming in and hitting some of those areas of concern with a more detailed study to go in and look at exactly what the crashes are, what are the issues, what are the details. It's kind of like a high level screening of the whole county. Here's the problem areas. Now let's go fix those problem areas. So we have that as well. There's a lot we're working on, trying to do a little bit of everything. But yes, marketing and as far as public information is a big need. I think that we do need to expand.
Thank you.
Um,
Abigail, if you don't mind, I'm gonna move and see if anyone else has questions from the committee, just because we're starting to run out of time.
Oh yeah, that was it for me, so I'm good. Thank you, Brian.
Yep.
All right, Brenda, Drew?
No, I don't have any. Everything is good. Thank you.
Okay, no questions. All right, Andrew?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for the information.
Perfect, all right. I'm gonna jump in and then we can do a second round if anyone has any additional follow-up questions. First of all, thank you so much that you're gonna do the landing pads. And when you pulled up the spreadsheet and it was all red, I was like, oh no. But landing pads really are, it feels like, very affordable and very important, especially for people with strollers or people with disabilities in a wheelchair or walkers. And I also agree with Abigail that getting to those bus stops is equally important. And so this actually ties in really nicely because we're going to be talking about priority projects next. So perhaps as a committee we can consider adding the Safe Streets to Transit, Safe Routes to Transit, that capital project to our list. I also want to second Martin's concern about widening the roads. So I am also really pleased to hear that we're considering road diets in order to add some of the bicycle pathways onto 175 or whatever it may be, because the 175 really does bisect Odenton. And it is incredibly difficult to get from one side to the next. And just widening that is just going to make it that much more difficult in the core. And so I really do appreciate that. My one question really has to do with the uncertainty of federal funds. And I am curious how those grants or lack thereof and the general uncertainty is going to impact any projects that we have either on the county end or with 175 from the state's end. And I know there is so much uncertainty that you may not really have a solid answer at this time, but if you have anything to share regarding that, I would appreciate hearing it.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Well, I wasn't gonna speak for you guys, so I just was gonna talk about like programmatic federal funds versus, but you're probably better equipped to speak to the state side of things.
Okay. So we are on the tail end of what is called tour season, where the secretary goes out and speaks to every county. And the Anne Arundel tour was last week. Obligated funds are obligated funds. The 175 at 295 project is in construction, and that funding isn't going anywhere. We are not getting at this point signals that, like he said, what we call formula funds, the federal, kind of the straight federal funding that funds our major projects. We're not getting signals that those are going away in any way. But things could change. And that's the message that has been shared kind of by the secretary at tour meetings. It does seem that some of the discretionary grants could, they're a little more concerned about where that funding's going. But if they're, I know you guys have a lot of transportation alternative grants. That's actually formula funding. Like that's not the new fancy funding. So we're as confident as we can be.
Yeah, and I'd just say on the county side, from the county perspective, like Tara was saying, a lot of our funding is kind of secure, especially for existing projects. And then it's kind of those grants that we've applied for that, we may or may not get, but the county is working on setting aside some money in case we don't get, not just for transportation, but for other areas too, about, what can we do to mitigate maybe not getting funding in all those areas if it gets affected or it gets slowed down, because there is the slowdown effect as well as a reduction in workforce gives less people to do the same amount of work. So there could be an impact, but it's not as right now. I say right now, it's not as big an impact. There's a lot of stuff still going on, and there's a lot of still money coming in for a lot of these projects. So far we're okay, but you never know.
Wonderful, thank you. Thank you both. All right, any last questions from committee members? Going once, going twice. All right, great. Well, thank you so much again, Brian and Tara. We really appreciate you both coming out and sharing all this information. And please do share some of the items that you all brought up that you'd send over to Mark so that he can share that out with the rest of the committee. All right. We will move on then to our next agenda item.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Our priority project list and letter discussion. So I don't know, Mark, do you want to?
Yeah, I'll bring that up here in just a second.
So we had this on the agenda for last month and then had to punt it to October. If anyone had comments or questions, I hope you all shared that information with Mark ahead of time so that we could keep this discussion relatively brief. And essentially, at the end of this agenda item, we need to vote on approving the list as is and having a letter that goes from OPZ to the relevant departments.
Sam, is this one coming up on the screen? Okay.
All right.
So again, this is again the borrowed list from 2024. And again, the updated status is in, if it has changed, it's in this purple font on the right-hand side. So there are a few projects where there has been an advancement. You had also heard from Brian that, and Tara, that there have been a couple projects where we've had an issue with the contractor, and so we've had to sort of delay that project a little bit, or there just still continues to not be any funding for some of these projects. So that's why, again, as you may not see any updates for some of these projects as well. So again, I think the conversation is really up to you all about whether you want to reshuffle the deck here. I know, Colette, you had mentioned that you wanted to add a project, maybe suggest taking out a couple projects. But again, this is like Colette said, is a letter will be sent to the Office of Transportation and Department of Public Works, and this chart will be sent with it. So, and again, it really does provide, like Ryan had said, is anything that you all can do to help advocate for certain projects or for certain funding is helpful for their team and sort of their work plan and ultimately the county. So again, I'll leave it up to you all to discuss how you want to move forward with this chart. And again, Colette, I've got a letter teed up that I can start writing tomorrow based on your discussion here today.
I'd like to know how we
Can I just ask real quick, in terms of the deadline, Mark, because I know we had this on the agenda for last month, like, we're not too late, are we?
Sooner than later, right?
Okay.
I'm going to start writing the letter tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great, all right, so we do need to come to a final conclusion.
Oh, yes.
Tonight for this.
Do it tonight.
And Sam, are you able to see if anyone is raising their hands
I can
online?
add folks here.
Oh, perfect, just because I want to make sure I don't miss any committee members that are dialing virtually.
Yeah. Let's see if we can make that fit.
Okay, so were there any other questions with this real quick? And then I'm happy to share the thoughts that I had.
You have some thoughts about the bus stop movements? It's in the top, group, but I'm still worried about the transportation plan. And I don't know, looking at this list, how to make it more upfront, more priority, because the things that are above it are priority too.
I mean, it's all priority, so.
I know,
I feel
but I
like
mean,
that's why it's on the list.
relatively speaking.
Well, one thing that I suggested is moving the bus stop improvements up, since it's actually funded.
Right.
And that would put it on the first page, for sure. And then we just heard about the safe routes to transit capital project that we could potentially add to help encourage, the sidewalks as well. Because I think those are usually smaller, just like, instead of it being like a really big, it's its own capital project type thing, those are smaller fixes to get to certain destinations. So I don't know what everyone's thoughts are on those two.
So I have a question on just the overall structure. So the original intent for the priority projects not currently funded was for it to be something like a UFO list. That if it fit into plans being developed or thoughts being developed, or kind of that they could take these lines and pull them in to have it be there in that way. Is that still the intent that we want to have?
Can you say that again?
Sure. So the original thought for why we divided this into the three bins is the top one is these are the items that are getting funding and we need to make sure they continue to get funding because we want to see them get done. The next one down is these are getting funding, but they are basically, they're not things that the committee is gonna keep its eye on to make sure, and or apply like pressure to county council, et cetera, to make sure it continues to make money. Then the third is you first, basically unfunded requirements. That it's like, if there's a county plan that is being developed by a department that this could fall into, like, here's our list of items that we think should get funding, and pull from this list. Is that still the intent of how we wanted to structure this?
I think so. It's a good way to split.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see why not.
Okay. Okay, and then, so, to your question, like about bus stop improvements, where it's the money is available, I did not, so there's a difference between money being available and money being allocated. Has money actually been allocated or is able to be allocated to bus stop improvements in the OTC area versus the rest of the county?
Well, I just heard yes. I just heard they're gonna build landing pads for us.
Yeah, Brian, if you're still listening here, is, we had talked last year that you said that there was 50,000 for bus stop improvements. Is that 50,000 still available, right, for this year?
Yeah, it's programmed at 50,000 a year for countywide. So it's not earmarked for the town centers, or Odenton or anything. But obviously our internal priority would be to address, especially for bus stop improvements, that, the high ridership areas, first.
Yeah.
So you could try to say and earmark funds for the town centers or Odenton specifically, if you're looking for that, or some kind of commitment, to tie us down to increase funding in this area.
Yeah, so I agree, since there is funding, this can just get bumped up to the next level, so.
That would also ensure that when the request goes in, that it's clear that there's an interest from the committee to see continued funding going towards bus stop improvements. And maybe next year, we'll get a shelter.
That would be great.
They are the most expensive, honestly.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a question though. When you're saying bumping it up, the fact that the money is allocated for all of Anne Arundel County, does it make any difference? Because when you're bumping it up, we're talking about maybe $5,000 for the improvement. I'm
So we
thinking
would
that
move it into
once we get the
capital.
money, then we can, if we know for sure we're getting that money, then we can bump it up.
So it is currently funded.
Well,
So right,
what she's saying is that it's funded for the county, but not maybe for OTC.
I don't know that the bus stop capital project has like specific, I mean, it's an internal list that they work off of based on internal priorities.
I think just for the sake of organization,
Yeah.
since it is funded, it just should be going into the supporting funded or partly funded.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's not a specific capital project for Odenton, but we have access to the funds if we advocate for them, basically. Okay, and then the other thing that we just heard about was the Safe Routes to Transit, which is essentially the same type of project. It is accessible to anyone in Anne Arundel County, and I have no idea how much money is in there, or if it's funded. And it sounds like there's going to be a public meeting, but given that there is some movement on the county level to have conversations with the public, I think it actually does make sense for us to add it to the list. Not sure where.
We put a note under.
Right, I'll coordinate with Brian about getting some additional, the description.
Yeah, could we
and some of
maybe
this
add it to
additional
the bus
information.
stop improvements piece
Yeah,
and
as
just
a
have
note.
that? Because we can add both capital project numbers to the project number column.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that can just be one item.
Yeah.
And I don't know if anyone online is chiming in at all, but please just, committee members that are online, please just unmute and chime in if you have anything to add. The other project that I would like the committee to consider adding is the Town Center to Reese Road project. It is not actually within the Odenton Town Center advisory, or sorry, within the Odenton Town Center, but it does come up in the Odenton Town Center master plan, and encourages access to the MARC train station. I don't know, can we even see it? It is like
It's
right
just
up
outside,
there. It's
yeah.
just up there.
Yeah.
So it is, if you keep taking Town Center up, it does that turn onto Jacobs. And this would essentially continue straight through federal military owned property, which is why it's taken so long for us to get there. But they did have a public meeting on it last year. It is a very, very, very unsafe corner at the moment, without any sidewalks, but a very strong gravel desired path, trodden by many people going between Seven Oaks and the community in the back. I was joking recently that my family and I place bets on how regularly the light post on that corner will get knocked down, because it happens. Yeah, I know. And it is this corner right here. So the project would essentially extend Town Center out to Reese.
Oh, I see.
That is it, yes. Instead of going through Jacobs, which is a 2-lane road without any, I don't know, there's nothing on the side. People are walking along there. So it is not a safe section to drive. And the only reason I'm bringing it up here is because it was specifically brought up in the Odenton Town Center master plan. And so in the scope of that, I wanted to put it out there to the committee to consider.
In our
adding.
current master plan?
Yes, in part because it encourages access to the MARC train station.
Is there anything that could be done to the Jacobs Road safety aspect of it?
Only once this connection to Reese is built, I think.
Isn't there a bridge? So there's water. There was water somewhere there. There's a bridge there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's limited. There's very limited. Jacobs Road itself, Jacobs Road West, it's built up on both sides. It's private property. So the one thing that I would say should be investigated is what's the distance of that point to the casino? Because if it falls within the casino money range, it would be better to submit that as a funding proposal for the casino dollars as an actual upgrade.
What's the casino?
It does not fall. It does not fall.
Okay, that's unfortunate.
We need to expand the casino range.
Yeah, it doesn't. It's right on the borderline.
Okay, yeah, thank you, because that would be ideal to help
Yeah.
fund that.
Well, and I mean, this gets to like a larger question in general with our priority project list, is like, do we want to consider just projects that are within the Odenton Town Center, or are we also looking at the ones that are slightly outside? Because we do have some that are slightly outside of it
Well, that's
that
a
we're
good
bringing
question.
in.
I'm gonna jump in real quick. I see Brian raised his hand.
Yes.
Yeah, Brian, if you can shed some light on this.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I put it in the chat, but that Town Center Boulevard Extension project is currently funded through construction in the capital improvement program. So it's under design and it is funded and it's moving forward. So may have some slowness due to accessing the federal property piece of that. But we've been in discussions for, I don't know, over 5 years on this. So it is moving and it is funded. So that's not an issue. It's just,
Brian, it's fully funded for construction as well?
yes.
Great, well, never mind then. We still want it to happen though.
Yeah, keep advocating for it to happen faster. We try to do that as well. But sometimes public pressure helps.
It could be put under the supporting projects list, because that's where we put things that we want to
Let's do that.
keep a minor eye on.
I mean, if the committee is amenable to that, that would work for me.
Yeah. I think that's fine. I just want to address your question about you know, outside of OTC, and how far do we go?
Within the penumbra,
Yes,
right?
you could say that. But certainly, things happening out in these peripheral areas could make a big difference on the interior. So I think we should be considering that.
Well, some of the trails that were listed here,
Yeah.
for example, like, I was looking through it, and South Shore Trail, WB&A Trail, like, some of these have been built, right? Or at least the sections that are directly related to Odenton Town Center have been built. So how much do we care about the next leg and keeping that on our list? Or do we remove those because our section is done? I don't know.
Once it goes outside, like a reasonable distance of the OTC,
Yeah.
I would advocate it's outside the purview of the OTC.
Yeah.
Unless it affects itself.
I mean,
We don't know.
But I mean, like, for example, the one that's way down south, like south of Piney Orchard, past Woodwardsville, where they built that bridge, it's like, I mean, you're going on multiple miles.
Yeah.
Like, away from the OTCAC, which is like, at that point, like, Two Rivers could advocate for that.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, yeah.
So is that the WB&A
Nice bridge, though.
trail? Like, is that one basically finished for Odenton then?
As far as I know, they built that connection. I thought they finished the
Bridges.
Oh, the bridge is beautiful.
Because if that's the case, then I would advocate for removing this from our supporting priority project
Yeah.
list.
Yeah, that bridge is magnificent.
Yeah, the bridge, we don't have that listed here, it's just that phase 4B spur about traffic improvements.
If you've not been on it, I mean, it's getting colder weather now, but it goes a long way. It goes to a new stop where you can park and ride there.
Yeah.
But it goes all the way, I don't know how far it goes.
Now, the connectivity of this to the other trail systems in Odenton still is lacking.
Yeah,
Like, I think there's
on this end,
reasonableness for Odenton to change the scope of this to,
on this end again, yeah. We should go to the airport. I was gonna talk about it a little bit.
right.
So
Well,
just staying focused here on South Shore Trail and WB&A Trail, what is the recommendation?
so we haven't talked about the South Shore Trail. So is that one, so it says here it's still under construction?
Right, this is the one that parallels Maryland 175, west of Maryland 3. So
So this
I think the
also, like,
construction
kind
is
of out
at,
there, right?
what's that?
So this one's also like way out there. Or it's
It's
still
just to
being
the northeast of the Sappington Station Circle. There's a commercial building, and then I think they've actually started, there's actually construction happening right next door, so.
I mean, that's entering Gambrels at that point.
Yeah, so with from when we talked a couple months ago about adding a couple properties to the Odenton Town Center, we did recommend adding that commercial property at the northeast corner of the Sappington Station
Okay.
Circle. So I think the western terminus of the South Shore Trail, this current phase 2, is immediately adjacent to that property.
Well, if that's the case, then I would probably leave the South Shore Trail project in for now, but remove WB&A Trail.
Okay.
I know, if we look at that bottom there, this is the traffic improvement for trail crossing Watchapel,
Right.
Watchapel.
Oh, is that where it does that dog leg, a weird dog leg connector?
It's,
Yeah. No, that just goes across, straight across. There's two issues there.
You're right there, Mark.
is it this one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what, I don't know if you guys have noticed, they're repaving Watchapel, and that crossing light has been removed. I don't know if it's gonna go back to a different location at that intersection. See the trail there?
Mhm.
Okay, they put a sign there that it's going to be a crossing, it's a bike crossing there. I think they're gonna wanna go directly across because coming this way towards me, there was that traffic calming island there, and there was a light on Watt Chapel.
Oh, here.
Yeah, the light is not there, but it was, yes, it is.
Yeah.
And they have taken it out.
Okay.
So I don't know if you're planning to move it and put it more in line with the trail.
So that does make sense to keep,
Yeah.
because that is, like, people ignore that, which is why they probably
Yeah.
removed it, because
Yeah.
because it doesn't make sense for where the trail is. You have to go up,
That's the
cross,
thought,
then
like
go
it-
back.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
And it made no sense, so
Right.
everybody ignored it, so.
Yeah.
So yes, an improvement does need to be made there to keep the WDNA trail more connected.
So keep South Shore, keep WBNA. Yeah,
Can we add a note under WBNA though to specify that we're concerned about that crossing?
the concern about
Like,
lack of,
yeah,
but that's what the improvement is for traffic, for those improvements.
okay.
Yeah.
So is it a traffic improvement or is it a pedestrian bicyclist trail traffic improvement? The traffic improvement could mean it's traffic improvement.
County did a study, Trusky was in office then for us, and they talked about doing, roundabouts on Watt Chapel. This is a side point, do you know anything about that one?
I don't. No.
We don't have the money for that.
I don't know if that's going to affect this or if it.
Yeah.
So, all right, so talking about other projects, the one area, like there's a couple areas we've talked about, like the lack of sidewalks in more of the older areas of Odenton, and the connectivity of those areas into the OTC core, like where the Odenton Park is, et cetera. So I'm thinking the directions here. So if you are east of the railroad tracks into the developments in that area, do we have sufficient connectivity for people to walk through, like to get to the park by walking?
Well,
Like, if we feel like we do, then I'm fine.
there's a sidewalk, you mean on 170?
So 170 does have a sidewalk down Piney Orchard, but I'm going further east than that even. Like we have the elementary school,
Oh,
the Odenton Elementary School, and then you have
yeah,
all the housing communities back there.
Yeah.
Do we have enough sidewalk connectivity across these older areas of Odenton for people to actually be able to walk?
they would take the trail.
Right, if they have connectivity to the trail, yes. I agree.
Yeah, they would take the trail.
That's an area that, yeah.
We have a sidewalks layer, so, you know.
Oh, excellent.
And pulled out on here.
Because we focus sidewalks in the Grid Street area, I'm just wondering about, like, your question about the other areas of Odenton.
Yeah.
Do we have sidewalk coverage? So. You would see
I'm
that.
kind of confused, though, Jason, where you talking about the sidewalks need to be?
I don't know if they need to be or not.
Okay,
That's the question.
I don't know.
You're talking about down by Odenton
Yeah,
Elementary.
like the elementary school, that
Like
entire,
that area
like so that area now at the south where you have, see Gill Street, Monterey Avenue,
Yeah.
et cetera, like that area there, are there sufficient sidewalks for people to walk through to get toward the park?
So there is the,
on one side,
right, the trail is,
Yeah.
but there's a sidewalk down
Odenton Road.
Odenton Road. It's on
Or
the
shopping.
north side, right?
Yeah, I think on the shopping center side.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you could take that to the trail,
Mhm.
or just go across the street at the light there.
And within the communities, like within those streets where the houses are,
Now, the
I
flats,
don't know that I think the speed of the traffic within those is still, people are just walking on the side.
It should be low enough to where we
Yeah,
can walk.
I feel like that should be, because if you want to add sidewalks to those, you need to get approval from every single resident that owns a house
Yeah,
there.
which that
Which
will work.
means it's never going to happen.
Right. Okay, so then the only other area is the connectivity of the WBNA trail. Like, I think we've talked about this before, to the train station. Is there, like right now, it's like there is that sidewalk you can see from that circle,
it's a road,
which is that private property or is that county property? That sidewalk is.
that's behind the
That's
cleaners.
the trail.
Yeah,
yeah, it looks like it's, county property.
Okay, does that
Yeah,
fall
it's
under
county
phase
sewer.
4, or is that, like that phase 4 WB&A spur, or is that not?
No, so Brian, if you want to jump in, but from my understanding is the WBNA crosses over, gets you to Becknell here.
Yes.
And then you're riding in the road, there is a sign, it's signed, right? It's not a busy road.
It's not
And
marked
then
either.
once you get to the new development here, well, not so new anymore, but that's where you pick up that trail. But I don't think that there are any improvements planned for Becknell. I can,
There's not enough room on Becknell, like you said, between Piney Orchard Parkway and is that Patuxent, North Patuxent or something? Where you're
yeah,
on the
exactly.
road. There's limited right of way there. I mean, we have looked at putting a path along the old railroad spur right of way that was like
Yeah.
Nevermar Properties. It's kind of north of Odenton Road and connecting to the Mark station and then crossing somewhere at one of the signalized intersections.
Wasn't the old railroad bed to be used for a trail? Wasn't that to be paved at one point or something?
From what I understand it, the county is still looking into the feasibility of using it.
Yeah.
Or acquiring it, I guess, first, and then using it.
Because all the rail is taken out.
I thought the rail was just taken out at the road section. I think the rail is still.
So my talk point bringing that up is more of the WBA trail connectivity to the train station is not great.
Yeah.
Like it's lacking. So
Right.
like that is an area where.
And
Yeah,
I'm not
nice
sure
to have
that's part of the current scope of the project, is it? I don't know that that's being considered.
Well, I mean, Brian, is there an opportunity to advance this further, or has the county really identified that there isn't enough right of way at this section?
No, I think you could certainly push for that connection to be made, and how we get there, we could figure it out. But
Sure.
yeah, I definitely think you could advocate for a dedicated facility to make that connection.
Okay.
So do you want to add that in, better bicycle pedestrian facilities between the eastern terminus of Becknell and North Patuxent Road?
Or consideration of using the rail spur.
Or, sure.
Yeah.
I would offer that. I mean, to be honest, I would be satisfied with simply a better connection from that circle on Becknell to Piney Orchard Parkway, because like that is just a poor connector right now. Like if we had to like settle for the lowest bar, like that bar.
Yeah.
Going around the crab gallery.
I have been there, and
Yeah.
people have been with their bikes, and they're like, "Where are we supposed
Yeah,
to go?"
like, it's just that
Like,
yellow
it's
line right there. The
Yes,
yellow line that connects the
that.
circle to Piney Orchard Parkway is a terrible connector.
Yeah.
Like the lowest bar would just be to fix that.
Yeah.
To make it obvious that you could leave the WBA trail and take that to get to the train station.
The developers who put in those new town halls were supposed to do that.
So we only have a couple minutes
So
left, so we do need
that's what I would
to,
offer
yeah.
as something to have.
I think that's a good idea. We also just heard about the Odenton to BWI trail, which I don't believe is on our list at all yet. I'm not sure if there's a capital project for it.
Brian, it had been funded for just the study, but there isn't any funding going forward, correct?
Yeah, the Odenton BWI, correct. Right now, there's no funding for it.
Which is there again?
The Odenton to BWI trail, so we saw that map that Brian had with the different options that were being considered, whether it's just, from Odenton up 170 on Telegraph, or if there are other options.
Oh,
To have a
it's
direct
crossing.
connection.
BWI.
Yep.
It would be nice to get to the airport.
It would be nice to get out of Odenton and up to other trails, right?
Yeah.
So I would advocate for adding that. It's not currently funded, but that would be real nice to have,
Yeah.
honestly.
Okay.
If you've ever ridden your bike around the airport, it's a nice.
Yeah,
You
that
can't
is
get there
nice.
from here.
So in
not
terms
safely.
of thinking about the letter then, is it better, and this is the question, to list out individual projects like we have here, or to talk about a category? Because one of the categories that keeps coming up is the connectivity of Odenton to the surrounding area through the existing trails, like both within Odenton and the connectivity of Odenton to those trails is lacking. And we have specific instances where we can point that out, but that's a general unfunded category that we see that could use investment.
That's a great idea.
Yes, yeah, I would support that. I'd like to ask those who are online to chime in with any other thoughts before we need to get a motion on the table for consideration. So Brenda, Abigail, Drew, Andrew. Okay.
I don't have any comments right now.
All right, so, I'm sorry, Abigail, did you just say you don't have any comments?
Yeah, it's right now, no.
Okay, great. That's what I thought I heard. I just wanted to confirm.
Yeah. I have none either, especially for the bike trails, since I don't ride a bike. So I'm leaving that up to you.
But I'm sure you walk. You can use this for walking too.
Yeah, true.
All right.
I think most of my comments, like thinking about those priorities with bike ped and walking, were answered with the NDOT presentation earlier. We know we need better roads for bicycling and comfort to be able to walk to bus stops or other modes, the connection pieces. And so I feel like as long as we're prioritizing these things that are already funding and the short wins the easier wins like we've talked about, then that's what matters. And it sounds like the fundamental ideas are there from what we heard earlier.
Yeah. So,
How do we want to do what Jason suggested?
so I would say we do the motion and OPZ is writing the letter. And so I just want to sum up, make sure that I have everything and that we're all on the same page. So we want to refine the bus stop improvements by also adding the safe routes to transit as part of that project. I have the WBNA trail that we're going to keep that and specifically ask for the dedicated bike facility to the train station, right? That connection that we were just talking about.
The Becknell,
Either the.
you're talking about along Becknell or along the
Sorry, both
rail?
of them. Sorry, because there are two, right?
Becknell or rail?
Yeah.
Right.
Becknell or rail, yep.
Yeah, or we don't even have to be that prescriptive, just a connection between.
Yep. And then I
Well,
think I was
actually-
thinking about the south, wait, now I'm confused. South Shore is the connection over,
Back up for a minute. The connection on Becknell is to go to the train station. The rail is going to the library.
But the rail could also connect to the train station.
yeah,
You have no way of crossing there.
no,
You have to cross where you go on the sidewalk, I guess, and take the rail by the.
So here's where the
but if you're
rail
at the
sort
train
of dumps
station, you
in.
could go to the library on the rail trail.
You'd have to come back.
I don't care how they do it, let's just get connections.
That's right.
It's basically, I'm happy to let the engineers engineer
Exactly. Yeah.
that out. But I was also thinking about the connection that you were talking about, Martin, with down towards the new bridge, where there's the connection. Was that
That's-
WBNA or
That's
South Shore?
WBNA.
Okay.
That's okay, that's done.
Okay. No, I'm talking about like crossing the street where there was like the signal, and now there's.
Oh, that, yeah,
piece.
sure, that's, yes.
So we wanted to make sure that stays in there for that.
Yeah.
Then we're adding the Odenton to BWI Trail, and we are adding the town center to race.
Yeah.
And that was it, right? In
That's
terms
what I
of
got.
what we're adding and taking out.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Yeah.
then,
And again, all these will, based on, again, I'll verify whether they're funded or not funded, they'll fall in either supporting or priority. Were any going to be bumped up to the top priority projects?
That requires some amount of funding.
Second,
Right, so if they are funded,
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
do you see a different, would you want to bump any of those up to the top priority, or just maintain these top 4 where they are?
The bus. That's
So,
good.
so we know the bus is funded.
Are
Do you
they
see-
ranked within that top 4? Or are they just top 4?
They're just top 4, honestly.
The
We don't,
bus is not funded for us necessarily. It's a pot
Correct.
of money, but we don't know. So we want to put that in that top tier to call attention to it.
Okay.
I'm fine adding it to the
Okay,
top.
so bus is going
Yeah.
to the top.
Okay.
Okay, everything else good in these top 4, anything that,
I would say yes.
okay.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
And then with the letter, grouping it and making it clear that the general focus is
Sure.
on trails,
Connectivity.
connectivity,
Yeah,
multimodal.
With the region.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
All right, great. So can I get a motion then?
So moved. I am so moved, Mark.
Second.
Was that Brenda? Okay.
Was that last one to move it was to move another one to be a 5th top priority? I missed that.
The bus.
The idea is to move the bus
Stop
stop improvements and
Slash.
the related, the safe routes to transit.
Yep.
General category up into the top priority projects.
I agree with that.
All right, so we've got a motion on the floor and a second.
Yeah.
So can we vote? All in favor? All right, excellent.
And Andrew,
Okay,
Just
anyone
waiting for him.
opposed? Okay, anyone abstaining? All right,
Andrew, I didn't see,
yeah, I didn't see anything.
anything yet.
Hanson.
Yeah, I put an eye through, but I'm in support, so yes.
Okay.
Okay, excellent. So the motion passes.
Let's, okay.
So, development project update.
Yep. Again, not too much has moved recently, and for, I don't think that there were any new projects here that we talked about. So starting here on the first page, 1 through 3, again, no changes. The number 4, this had come through the process as a Starbucks, but I think the owner of the property has now backed away and sort of is advertising it as just a restaurant. So just want to make that clear.
What does that mean for what they presented? They're gonna have to come likely back through because their design is potentially gonna change.
No,
They
so
change
as
the
long
design.
as the site, as long as the tenant fits that site plan and the building envelope,
Okay,
right?
okay.
You mentioned Starbucks. Is this your Starbucks? No?
No, it's not gonna be a Starbucks.
Yes.
We have one, right?
Right, I think it just opened.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So again, is not too much movement. Mary's Meadows, that's that townhome development, along Baltimore Avenues at the northern end of that gridded street network, just on the other side of that other set of new townhomes that's been built, where there's just that small little Chinese restaurant, like a package store, so, yeah. So it's sort of just in that area, so the final plan was approved, so they'll be able to move forward with getting that project developed soon. Academy Yard, again, they're still working through the process, and Taco Bell, if you happen to see, they've got their fences up and they're starting construction. The last one here, number 14, it's not purple, but again, is when I drove by on Friday, I didn't see any traffic going through the restaurant. But when I drove by this evening, I did see people using the drive-through. So we can actually turn number 14 to construction complete, and we'll actually take it off then for the next development review update. So
You did a nice job with that.
Yeah, any type of
I had a
retrofit of
question.
buildings is great. Yep. Go ahead, Abigail.
I had a question about the Starbucks. Like I'd seen even just a few weeks ago that many Starbucks were closing due to some consolidation. So knowing that one was just recently opened, is there any information or news about that one possibly being closed as well?
I don't have any information about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then Blue Oaks North Odenton is just about done, Mark. I don't know if that was on your list, but
Say
I
that
think they're
again.
going to have Blue Oaks North Odenton is just
Oh,
about
okay.
done.
That's up here at the top. Blue Oaks at Odenton, yeah. So I think we still have that as under construction underway. Yep. Do you know if there's going to be a ribbon cutting anytime soon?
I will find out about that and share information because that should be a neat project to look at. And I think it will hopefully bring some more folks to Odenton. So I'll find out.
Okay, great.
It is looking great. I would love
Yeah.
to be invited to the ribbon cutting.
Okay.
I would hope they do one, because that's like
They
one of
should.
the biggest, that's one of the
Yeah.
biggest, like,
Could catalyze that area too.
Yeah. And that would be great. Okay.
Okay, any other questions? And again, for anybody listening at home, this list, and there is a companion, since I've been just looking at the list here, with numbers. Those numbers do correspond then to a map. This information can be found on aacounty.org/OTC. On the left-hand side of the page, there's a tab called Development, and if you click on that, you'll be able to find these, the map and the list, and they're updated quarterly. And you'll also, at that link, you'll also be able to find a link to modifications for these projects. To learn more about those, we post the project or the request, the applicant's request, as well as then the county's response if there is one. And you can also find our capital project map and list on that site as well. So some good information up there. Okay.
so just one comment. I don't know how much other committee members have read through all those letters, so I just decided to pick and choose. I read through a whole ton of them. Because periodically we do hear comments on like how the county isn't moving fast enough and kind of moving slowly. I see a lot of letters where a lot of these statements that reviewers make are not being addressed. So I can't say that the county is not moving slowly. What I can say is I see a lot of comments that aren't being addressed in responses to the county in the letters. So that's just my layman's assessment, because I'm not an expert in this at all. But I do see where comments that does seem like it will delay the process. So just that feedback from the committee, that's been my assessment of those letters.
All right.
Okay. Yep.
So moving on to the advocacy new business section. Go ahead, Mark.
So based on some previous discussion where folks have mentioned that they may be folks on the committee may be interested in identifying aspects of transit-oriented development or town centers that have been working well. We've talked about Annapolis as an example here in these meetings before. We're gonna, I've been working with Colette and Martin, and we've been talking about establishing a subcommittee for a couple folks, less than 4 or less, to do more of a deeper dive into that, identify what those characteristics are, and really then identify how those can be worked into a plan or a code. And ultimately, we're here sitting in 2025. This work over the next year or so could then help inform any updates to the next update to the master plan. So while we wouldn't take action on these recommendations right now that the subcommittee would be developing, it would ultimately feed in and help inform that master plan update in a couple of years. So that's what the end goal of that work would be. I'll circulate some more information via email with like a little bit of formats and structure, as well as some potential milestones for that subcommittee to meet so that we stay on track. Okay.
Is there a date when you would want to like have people express interest and have the subcommittee start?
Yeah, I think maybe in January, right? I know things might get busy here now over the next couple months, so.
Give us time to pull some things together too, to better create the structure of the
Sure.
committee themselves.
Yeah, so I think by our meeting in January, which is at the end, that should give folks to sort of digest this, feel if you want to, or decide whether you want to join this up.
I'm very glad we're doing this.
So, the other item I was going to mention is we put out a poll, doodle poll just for availability in November. Everybody can make that meeting as scheduled. It's the week of Thanksgiving, but everybody was able to indicate that they're available. So we'll meet then. December was just much more dicier, so we're just going to actually cancel the December meeting, and then we'll catch back up in January.
Happy holidays.
Yep. So.
And then the survey, did you hear back from everyone?
I'm waiting on one more person, but again, it's,
yeah, thank you all for, it is a little bit of a lengthy survey, but I think it's really gonna help us function more efficiently as a committee, and also just give us a sense for where there are opportunities to sort of get additional feedback, and also hear if there are things that committee members need to just feel more prepared to share in meetings. So there is that. I don't know, does anyone have any other new business or advocacy items they want to share?
I would advocate that for anyone who wants to join the committee, please do. Like Darby, you keep attending as a guest. Consider joining the committee.
Yes, we actually are, I think there is a post out for a new OTCAC member, right?
That's right. There's a vacancy on the committee.
There is a vacancy.
So if you are interested, go to the just go to aacounty.org and then use the search function to look for boards and commissions, and that'll direct you to find out some more information about the committee as well as how to apply.
And I'd also like to encourage committee members to please share that out actively through your own networks, in your HOA Facebook page, or whatever you have access to locally. Abigail, go ahead.
Yes, so we've talked about it casually, like Colette, I'm not sure if you saw my email about interest in adding a type of code of conduct type language into the commitment to wanting to be a member of the Odenton committee. So I did draft some sample language that I shared with Colette that could possibly be passed around, that could be mindful of thinking about, although a volunteer committee, this is still a professional setting, this is still a setting where we're reflecting the public in some way, and with that should come some level of understanding of what our language and presence in the meeting.
So Abigail, we actually are adding a review of the Odenton Town Center Advisory Committee's rules of procedure to the January agenda. So that would be a great time to raise that and bring that up.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. All right, if there's nothing else, I'd like to move on to public comment. So for those who are interested in speaking, feel free to raise your hand either virtually or in person here. If you could just state your name and address in any organization you're representing, then I will let you know that it's your turn, and please limit your comments to 2 minutes. You are also welcome to submit comments by email to otc@aacounty.org. So, anyone have anything to share? Yes?
So, Mark knows everything about me, so I'm going to repeat again.
I'm sorry, can you share your name?
You can just introduce yourself again.
Yeah, I'm Jerry, I'm a regular.
Speak up, so Howard.
Okay. I'm Jerry, I'm a regular.
Yep. Thank you.
Alright, I can get my name down this time. I'm Jerry, I'm a regular, I'm part of the community at the Odenton Town Center Commons. And the question about the discussion that's been going on is that is there any plans for TCB, Town Center Boulevard, to ever get crosswalks?
I don't know. Yeah, we can look into that.
Thank you. That's a good point. Yes. Do you want to, no? Anyone online? All right, great. Well, just in time,
Really?
since we are apparently being
Out.
encouraged to exit the room here. So if there's nothing from any online guests, then can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting with our next meeting, by the way, scheduled for November 25th at 6 p.m. I'm supposing it's here at the library or TBD?
We are, I think we're at the police station.
Great, so bring your coats,
really?
I will
friends.
confirm.
Bring your coats.
Just, yeah, I'll have a look. Yeah, I'll bring
I
it.
will bring hot chocolate
Yeah.
to share so we can stay warm. All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion, yes, make a motion. Andrew makes a motion.
And a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor? Great, excellent. I think that was everyone. Meeting is adjourned. Have a great evening, everyone.